For that inspiration, for that meditation.
Light. Thank you so much. It was so quiet, so peaceful and so energetic at the same time. You came specially from New York for this evening, and we have much gratitude for you.
For the water, I will come from heavens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yacine, bonsoir.
Good evening, Yacine. Well, we began the day with Elix, and what we had said is that before going into outer space, because at 11, who was here this morning when we had the overview effect? Good for you. You are the champions of the 24 hours of meditation. So we say to you, come and stay till the end. So Yacine, with Jean-François Clairvoy, who was in the NASA space shuttle. Yacine, throughout the day, Elix has been walking around this room, has listened and been watching what's being said. Can we just see a few little pictures? Well, let's recap this day with you. Well, here on site, there are people who see us online, but here at the Rex, we've had a very special day with time that feels sort of like suspended animation for those who've been watching from the beginning. There you go. Wow. So that's another overview effect. So these are live drawings. So Elix came here and superposed himself throughout the day to show the invisible. That's its specialty. Everything that it felt, this very special environment, the lights, the statements, the silence. Sometimes we felt like we were at the bottom of the ocean. It's still not what we want, but we will get there, hopefully. So what could we say in the interim? You can see them on Twitter, the right series. I've been sending these throughout the day, and they were published on social networks throughout the day with the various scenes that we have had. On the ocean, we know that the oceans is the 14th Sustainable Development Goal. So let us benefit from your drawings. So we will not have the images from the stage. Well, will we be showing them later on? Could maybe the sound and video, audio visual tell us what's going on? Perhaps later. Perhaps later. Okay, here we are. No, not quite. That was from Douchwaya TV. Well, it's not quite what we want yet. So it's after this. Here, this is a series of images for the official calendar of COP21 last December. There were delegates from the entire world returned home with these images of Elix. The advantage of the calendar is that we have these images throughout the year. Every month, there's one theme represented, and the main theme was the oceans. There were renewable energies. So Elix will soon bring us to these Sustainable Development Goals. This is something that all countries are working on. In October, Elix will be addressing children from 8 to 14 in an incredible adventure. Could you tell us about it? Yes, these Sustainable Development Goals were signed in September 2015 by all member states of the UN. We don't know them well enough yet. This is a toolbox that is amazing. There are 17 very ambitious goals: eradicating poverty, action on climate change, gender equality. 17 goals, all are equally passionate. And Elix has a series of projects related to these. And this is becoming a toolbox for citizens to put pressure on states, but also to be a supporter, because the states are the ones who signed these goals. This is the fifth dream, which we saw earlier at the different moments and times and sequences. So these are these sustainable development goals relating to the oceans. 14th is to protect the oceans. They are the basis of a series of actions, and it's very cross-disciplinary, cross-cutting. We can't talk about poverty without resolving gender equality issues, and this is all going to be told in a book that will come out for teenagers. It will be a trip into a positive future, and you will have these sustainable development goals as the milestones. So it's in 14 years, in 2030, the children will be young adults. Children of today will be young adults. So these are very optimistic prospects, and they're reachable, they're attainable. The book will be entitled Welcome to Your World. Thank you, Yassine. Thank you for these wonderful memories and souvenirs that are circulating. Now we're going to go to outer space with Jean-François Clairvoy, who is one human who was able and lucky enough to be able to go into outer space. Thank you for being with us, Jean-François. So 3 times you've had the luck to spend about 10 days going around the planet in outer space. Just emotionally, using our senses, the ocean is very vast. It's beautiful. It has been weakened. And what's very obvious is that humans depend on water. And this is pushing us to committing ourselves to work with organizations that work on protecting the oceans. Here are 2 ecosystems. One station, which is called World in Russian, Mir, the Mir station, and the planet. The planet, when you see it, looks like a spaceship. What automatic satellites cannot do is to look at the reflection of the sun on the ocean. That's a direction that we avoid for automatic satellites, but we love looking at the ocean. Here, this is a very broad range because you see 260 kilometers all around. You can see the vortices, and you see the lines separating the currents, the masses, the differing degrees of salinity, and you can look at the differences in the seabed. Here, this is very beautiful. You see the hatching of phytoplankton, and this brings us to tears. Here you see a sandstorm sending sand to the Atlantic Ocean, and you see the Hubble space shuttle. This was the Hubble telescope, and all Egyptians live on the Nile, on its delta. And here, the greatest density is along the coast and along the river, so you need energy for comfort. Here you see a photo of Japan. You see the color of concrete from space. You see gray masses, and they are stuck again to the coast. So the ocean is not just, you can see the ocean as an environment control system. You see there's a cycle of water, and you see that the oceans are nourishing people, are feeding people. Here we see the deforestation, which is destroying biodiversity in oceans. You take the trees out of the tropical forests, and when you get these massive rainfall, then there's erosion, and then you see these areas full of sediment, and more than 80% of biodiversity becomes destroyed. You see a lot of the biodiversity at the source of the rivers. I am supporting, Jean-François, don't speak too quickly. Let's go back to this previous slide. So you have taken let's say you've been around the globe about 500 times, right, from outer space. So we were with Jean-Pierre Gou and his friend Michael, who presented the overview effect. Does it change something in the lives of humans to come back down from outer space? Well, I see it as enrichment through personal experience. I have the luxury of being able to recall to mind these images, the memories I have, and I saw these beautiful sights. I saw the Earth as something powerful, like it's a geological being with these volcanoes. This is humbling. We feel very small, but what's really striking, you don't see the horizon here, but when you look at the horizon, you see the atmosphere. When you can see 2,500 kilometers all around, you can see that the layer of gas that enables us to live is very thin. So it's like as if you were stuck to the window of the spaceship. So it's very thin, this layer. So it's like our life hangs on a hairbreadth. So it's like cigarette paper, rolling paper. So it shows how fragile what is living is. So when you see volcanoes erupt and then you see the plumes of smoke. So what does this give us the urge to do? Well, all astronauts have this urge to give a testimonial, to commit to these organizations, to work on protecting what's alive, like oceans. So what is your association? Mine is called Te Mana o Te Moana, because I have a veterinarian astronaut colleague, and he is a veterinarian. He works on conservation. So we want to have more information on the oceans, especially for young people in Polynesia, and try to act.
Mine after 5 minutes.
We are putting hundreds of organizations together. When there was the World Oceans Day, there were hundreds of us. There'll be Nathalie Mosey, who will be here. She's working on sustainable development as well. There's Fernando Hernandez Rodrigo, who's from Porto. He came from Porto just for this. He speaks French. And Hélène Lebert, who's an ethnologist and who has just spent 14 months on the island of Amsterdam, which is not in the Netherlands, but is in the southern lands. It's a French overseas department. I guess you get the feeling you're on another planet. So Natalie, are you not? You're part of those people who are from the space agency, and the space agency is made up, of course, of astronauts like Jean-François, and it has other missions as well. We also talk about this need for knowledge. Patricia Ricard reminded us of the importance of understanding what's happening in these ecosystems. So tell us now, in 2016, what are we doing in space that is serving us to help understand what's happening in the ocean?
La connaissance s'acquiert par nos programmes, nos missions qui ont pour vocation d'observer la Terre principalement.
Now when we look at the Earth, shall I start over? When we take a look at the Earth, we see the oceans, of course. When you observe the Earth, you have scientific goals. You're the Earth Explorer. These are missions that explore the Earth for scientific reason. And there are other missions that are more directed to the service to the citizen. We're going to be talking about scientific missions because we can observe all the elements of the Earth, all dimensions of it, all angles of nature, the forest, the earth, but also water of all sorts. You have the oceans. There are some missions that will measure the salinity, the nature of the waves, the varies in colors, variables in colors that are representative of the health of the ocean. The overview effect that we heard about this morning. This was taken by an American satellite. It was globally, and you don't see the stars, so the background was black. It's a spaceship. The idea of seeing the Earth from a spaceship is gives you a limited view. You have the overview effect with the emotions, extraordinary emotions, and we even sometimes admire the Earth so much that we cry. We see contrasts of very different colors. So we have the beauty, and this is very touching, and the scientific side of the scientific measures that are very sophisticated, and there'll be more and more, because the European Space Agency has a program called Copernicus with measuring apparatus that are very, very detailed so that we can make analysis of the data and more, shall I say, more responsibly, more accurate data. Are these tools available for hundreds of thousands of scientists? Is this data available? No. For the world. It's not only for the scientific community, but it's for any citizen who might need it. But what we could add, to give you a figure, out of the 50 parameters that divide the GEF, a Global Environment Fund, there are 26 that come from scientific satellites that study how the Earth functions. The others are in situ data between the satellite and the probe. We see that these tools are at the service of a knowledge base. You are thinking about common goods. That's why you and Fernando have come here. This is an adventure that is creating. It's called the Joint House Home of Humanity. Fernando is going to talk about it. There are 2 additional projects. There's a book that's called the Safe Operating System Treaty, SOST, Safe Operating System. And the purpose is to protect the Earth as a system, a chemical system, and give it a legal with status without borders. The fact that you think of a treaty existing on an operating system for the Earth means that the Earth has a life system, and you recognize that there is a life system for the Earth. Yes, this is the first time. Fernand, the idea of the common house of humanity, if I've understood correctly, the work that you are doing is to try and change the international legal system. Tell us a little bit more of what you're trying to produce in order to protect humanity and the Earth. We want the world legal system to recognize the Earth system as a legal entity. In all the international treaties and in the preamble, you talk about a global system, but after that, when you take a look into the text all the way through, nothing is said about the global system. The terrestrial system is not considered as a legal entity. Well, that's a paradox, isn't it? Because we're talking about the Earth that you see there. And all the treaties only commit the states under situations that are not very constraining. Well, the Earth system is the only common heritage of mankind. Therefore, it has to consider it as a legal entity in order to change something, change the economic and legal paradigm, scientific paradigm. But your idea is to go all the way and to take states to the court if they challenge or they do things that could jeopardize the universal equilibrium. But we don't want to work alone. We want to work with the man in the street, the organizations, the scientific community. We want to create a network with everyone. Well, the network is going to get started with the constitution of this, the Common House of Humanity. It'll be open by the end of the year, I think, in Porto. It's going to be open sooner than scheduled, and that will be the beginning of a network that will be worldwide, a network of like-minded entities. Now, if the people who are watching us on internet are interested in a change of system, could they join the Common House of Humanity? Well, I have Fernando who says a book, and you can sign up. Thank you, Fernando. Just 1 minute or a couple of minutes, because we've gone to Amsterdam several times in our discussions. How did you get to the southern horizon of the Amsterdam? I left from Brittany's and I got to Paris. That was easy up to there. And then I took a plane until the island of Réunion, and then I took a boat to the island called the island of Amsterdam. You stay there 12 months there on the boat, and it takes 3 weeks to get there. It was 14 months from home to home. You're an ethologist. You're interested in the behavior of animals. Now, these 14 months there, what did it teach you? What struck you? What struck me most is to work with fabulous species that you can only find there. I discovered them there. And it's the impact that waste, for instance, could have on this whole zone of seas. There were about 20 of us on the island. We collected a lot of waste, and I found ostriches, that is, little animals that were stuck in the nets, were strangled in the net. When we saw it's the island that's the most isolated in the world. And when you think of the waste that can do harm to it, it gave you, really made us decide that we wanted to do something more. Now the question of the waste and these animals, what other messages did you get from them? It's a long-term study, and we are worked on Kerguelen and Amsterdam and Antarctica. And what we know is that these species are subjected the climate change that affects the marine currents and the air. And you saw that during a 14th month. Did you saw the impact? Well, it's very difficult to see the impact directly on the spot. Studies have gotten started, and here some of them are 20 years, some of them are 60 years, but you have to have a certain hindsight in order to be able to think of what's going to happen. Thank you very much for taking us to Amsterdam. We would love to spend the whole evening with you. There's so much to do on the overview effect, on the Common House, and on the fate of these species in Amsterdam Island. But what we did see is that there is a link, the huge, tight link between life on Earth and life in seas. And as Paul Watson said, it's not too late. But we do feel that we've had a deafening alarm rung. Thank you.
Nous allons rester dans l'espace avec des images absolument superbes et une voix qui est tout autant.
Now, I'll be gone. 30-minute break. 30-second break, sorry. 30-second break.
La porte de ces baleines qui sont en danger.
À la main, on met un pied.
On peut mettre un pied, hein. Oui, c'est ça. Ouais, avec un pied.
Voilà, il faut toujours le prendre comme une chance de pratiquer la méditation pendant quelques minutes.
You should take advantage of this to practice meditation. Catherine Rousseau is going to be joining us. Let's welcome her and her songs. She's prepared 2 songs for us. I suggest that we start the pictures and Catherine, do come on the stage.
Caroline Alonso, vous voudrez bien m'excuser, il y a quelques heures de fatigue. Excusez-moi, Caroline.
Caroline, you'll get a microphone in just a moment. You said yes immediately when we asked. I was delighted to see us. It's a privilege. And what I saw